We are continuing right along. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller here. I hope that's okay for you guys. We're going to continue with the Chumash. We learned the first, second, and third days of creation already. And Baruch Hashem, we're heading on to the fourth and fifth days of Hashem creating the world. So let us see 1 second. Let me pull up the text. Make sure we have the text clearly here. Okay. So verse, 1 second. Let's do this. Okay. No. All right. Okay, so I believe we're holding like verse 14 in today's Chumash. Yeah. Vayomer Elikim. So Hashem said, God said, Yehi ma'oreis birakia hashamayim. Let there be ma'oros, luminaries, things that give out light in the sky, in this expansive. I guess, remember we said we're separating between the upper waters and the lower waters. Now he's saying, and that separation, he's calling it Shamayim or Rakia. And over there in that heaven will be the luminaries. These two major lights will be there in this place. And what's the point of them? He says, to separate between day and night. Lahavdil bein hayom uvein halayla, halayla, v'hayu, and they should be, these two luminaries should also be la'osos, as signs. We're going to learn all about in Rashi what this means. Ulamoadim, and for holidays, right? We're going to use the sun and moon for holidays. Uliyamim, and for days, the 24-hour day. V'shanim, and for years. So let's break it up. A bunch of interesting Rashis to understand this first verse, that Hashem's, what God is doing in the fourth day of creation. So here's a very important Rashi. The first one, I want to read it for you because it explains, I've been mentioning it the last 3 days in class. I think it's very important. I'm going to read Rashi in English here. You could look along with me. They were created, referring to the luminaries, the sun and the moon, on the first day. So they were really created on the first day of creation. So why is he saying over here, let the luminaries be in the sky? Because, and on the fourth day, he commanded them to be suspended in the sky. So everything was already created on the first day of creation. It was a big challenge. It was a big mud, big mess. Everything was mixed up together. And God, even the sun and the moon was mixed into this mess. And then God took them and put them exactly where they should be in the heavens, in the sky. He suspended them in the sky. And then Rashi goes on to say, and likewise, all the creation of heaven and earth were created on the first day. Everything was actually created on the first day. They weren't each created as the day went on. Everything was created on the first day. Maybe it sounds similar to this Big Bang theory or something, whatever it is, that everything was one big mishmash in the beginning. Maybe it means it had the potential for it. I don't know. I'm not making any suggestions here, but just sharing with you that it's very fascinating that the Torah believes that everything was originally created and then it's slowly placed into its orbit or to its place where it belongs. And each one was fixed in its proper place. Then throughout the days, Hashem put everything in its proper place on the day that was decreed upon it, on its specific day. So each day happening, meaning everything's being placed in its location. That is why it's written with the heavens to include their products. So when it said in the first verse, the heavens and the earth, as Shemayim v'esa aretz, it means that everything was created at the same moment with heavens. Everything that's in the heavens were created. That's going to be in the heavens was already created, and everything that's in earth that's going to be in earth was already created at the first moment, and it didn't happen later on in time. All right, so that is the first important Rashi. So again, creation does not mean that things are being created each day as the world goes on. No, everything was created right at the beginning, and slowly everything's being separated and placed into their time and into their specific location as time went on. And the sun and the moon were placed in the heavens at the fourth day, but they were created on the first day. Now, very interesting Rashi. Rashi sometimes will point out nuances in the verse. In the fifth word, it says, Vayomer, the fourth word, Vayomer Lakim, God said, Yehi ma'oros, let there be luminaries. Now, ma'oros could either be spelled with a vav or without a vav. That's the fact. That's the rule. And it's spelled without a vav. So Rashi is just telling you something fascinating here. Why is it spelled without a vav? It's to tell you that Wednesday is also a day where there is a curse. I don't know if the curse is the right word to use, for when children will become ill with something he calls a croup. It's a kind of sickness that you get. It's actually interesting. You get sick from your intestines, and that suffocates you and you can't breathe. I don't know if this sounds a little like corona, but it suffocates the person and then they can't breathe. And therefore, at a certain time, people made a fast day on Wednesday. There was a group called the Maimad that they would fast every Wednesday to protect the children from this negative consequence of this Wednesday. So although the luminaries are being created, together with this, some kind of illness. The children, and it happens on Wednesday, so much so that at a certain point in time, whatever people knew medicine, I don't know if it's in today's medicine, but there was something up with Wednesday, and therefore lacking a vav to tell us that there's some negative thing within creation that happens on the fourth day of the week, and that's why the word luminaries in Hebrew ma'orot is missing a vav. Interesting Rashi. Now, the next Rashi deals with another problem in this verse, is that we knew, very interesting, that on the first day of creation, God already created light. And darkness was already created the first day of creation. And now, all of a sudden, on the fourth day, God's creating the sun and the moon. So what's going on over here? So that light, as we learned, was taken away, was removed. That light was taken away and was removed from the world. Because remember, Rashi said, although God created the world with tremendous light, he hid it because he didn't think evil people should benefit from it. So only where would that light come? To people in Gan Eden, in heaven, in the world to come, will they benefit from that light that Hashem created. So what? And light will become a product of the luminaries of the sun and the moon, will eventually become. However, Hashem actually, Rashi tells us here, did not move that light away. That light was only moved away after Shabbos, after the 6 days of creation. God actually, even though he said he's going to move it away, he didn't actually move it away. He moved it away only after the 6 days of creation and Shabbos. He left that tremendous light of the garden, in the Garden of Eden, that's going to be shining in the world to come in heaven. And that light and dark was existing, but the sun and the moon were existing during the time, but they were like nothing. They were like, imagine taking a candle out on a light on a very bright day, the candle will be worthless. Really won't accomplish anything. So the sun and the moon, although they shine, but relative to the light that was back then, really, they weren't very important. So on the fourth day of creation, God's creating the sun and the moon, although their light is not needed at that time because it's much more powerful light, but he already placed them in heavens to be ready to do the job as soon as the major light that God had going will go away. Here's some more stuff. The sun and the moon will also be astronomy. I think that's where I always get mixed up between astronomy and astrology. One of them is talking about like knowing the patterns of the solar system, whatever, so on. And one of them is to know signs. So people always ask me, Rabbi, do we believe in signs? And here's the answer. It's very clearly here that we do believe in signs from the planets, from the solar system. They will be as signs. And Rashi even tells you, for example, some of the signs that there are. When there's an eclipse, it's a negative sign. It's an unfavorable omen for the world. So if anybody asks you, where does it come from? It's actually from right in the beginning of the Torah, right at this verse. In the fourth day of creation, when God creates the planets and the sun and the moon, tells you straight out that they are a sign. They're a negative sign. If the usually, I believe the Talmud says, if the moon has an eclipse, then it's a bad sign for the Jews. If the sun has a bad sign, has an eclipse, then it's a bad sign for the nations of the world, the Gentiles. But the bottom line is, he says, when you do the will of Hashem, it doesn't affect you. You don't have to worry about signs. Rashi brings that out here, but they do have in them, Hashem placed them in the heavens for a sign. What will be with the world. Another thing he tells you about when they're created on the fourth day of creation. The sun and the moon are also used for holidays, because we all know that our holidays are based on when the Jews will become a nation and they will receive the holidays. Pesach will have to be the 15th of the month. And so will Sukkot, the holiday we're celebrating now, will have to be the 15th of the month. That's based on the lunar calendar. Also, it has to be in the spring or the fall, whatever it is. It has to be a holiday based on the solar system, and therefore, another necessity for God to create these two major luminaries is also so Jews should know when to have the holidays. Well, the Yamim, also to tell you days, a night, a 24-hour period, 12 hours, it's not always divided equally, but once a full light night goes by, a full moon cycle goes by, and a full sun cycle, then you know that's light and dark, and then you know that it's completed a full day. So they're also necessary to tell us when is the morning and when is it night. Also, Vishanim, to tell us a year. And how does the solar system work a year? It's 365 days, plus there's really a fourth of a day. Some people that they added into the Rashi here. So once it goes through a whole 365 cycle, the sun goes back to its original location in the heavens. When we look up, we see the sun starts to the same thing. Now, together with them, Rashi brings down here, there is the zodiacs, right? The 12 constellations that are used together with the sun and the moon too. They find themselves with different, I guess the way the stars are in the heavens, the sun, the way it looks like is traveling based on the different zodiacs and is in 12 different cycles depending on the time. So very fascinating. Going back to the verse, just because it was long Rashi, let's just recap. God said, let there be luminaries. First Rashi says that really God had created them in the first day of creation. He's just placing them where they belong in the fourth day of creation. Then Rashi goes on to say that it's missing a vav and luminaries because it's actually a day that children get sick. So people would fast later on, but that's why it's missing a vav. And they're used to separate between night and day, although at this point there's a much stronger light and they're necessary. But after the 7 days of creation, when that strong light is taken away, it will become necessary. And they'll be used as signs, meaning when there's an eclipse and so on, it will indicate a negative or positive sign. Bereishis will be used for signs, and the Moyadim, and it'll be used for holidays. The Jews will know when to celebrate the holidays based on this creation of the fourth day. The Yamim, they'll also know the 24-hour cycle between night and day. And Shanim, and also for years based on different cycles that are very important that we use today in our calendar, all these luminaries that God is placing on the fourth day of creation. Continuing right along. And there will be luminaries in the sky, in the heaven, this expanse of the heaven. These are where the luminaries will be. They will be the ones giving light to the earth. The sun and the moon will be the ones, which is another benefit to the sun and the moon. Obviously, that's how we see where we're going, and all the benefits of the sun, even with solar power, we know today is the major benefit of the sun, solar energy, and so on. All these things come from the sun and the moon. And God made these two great luminaries. Rashi is a very interesting thing on this. He says that he calls the sun and the moon the two great luminaries. Let me just go back for a minute to maybe make something clear, which I might not have been clear about. He says that he doesn't identify in the beginning the sun, moon, and it could be stars too. He's just making luminaries. Now he's identifying specifically the two great luminaries of all the stars and everything that there are. Will be two great luminaries that us on earth will see them as of all the things in the heavens that they're there. They're two great ones. So two of them will be two great luminaries. The Rashi says here, why is he equating the sun and the moon as the two great luminaries? He should have probably better said one great luminary, right? The huge sun that Hashem created, and then in addition there was a small luminary. Why is he saying a great luminary and two great luminaries? And Rashi says, very interesting Rashi here, that sun and the moon were equal in size. They were both the same size. The sun and the moon there was two suns. Basically, it wasn't a moon. The moon was a sun. There were two suns. You can imagine that. There were two suns, and they were both the same size. And the moon complained to God and said, God, listen, you got to have one CEO over here. You can't have two bosses. We can't both be in charge. It's not a good system that you made, Hashem, here. So Hashem originally made them two luminaries. By the way, just on Shuki's point, everything was created in doubles, right? So you have two great luminaries here. So the moon said to God, I don't like this. You can't have two bosses. You can't have two major luminaries. So okay, you're going to become small. Fine. You don't think it's a good idea? Become small. Hang on 1 second. Sorry. Hello? Hello? Yeah, hi. Straight, are you at 26 Wicketunk Road? Yeah. Just come in straight to the back. There's someone there. Speak to Mitchell Beja. Come straight in and go to the back. Okay, just in the middle of a class. Sorry. Thank you. Bye. All right. So Hashem said to the moon, fine, you don't think there should be two great luminaries? Okay, you become smaller. But he felt bad for the moon. So Hashem put the stars at night in order to compensate for the loss of the light of the moon. So when you look at it at night and you see the stars, this is a little bit of the behind the scenes deeper ideas to Torah here, is that the moon and sun were both two great luminaries, as it says, two great luminaries. Then it says, if you read the rest of the verse, Asamar HaGadol, now the big one, to be in charge by day, because I'm going to leave the sun to be big. Asamar HaKatan, and the smaller luminary, which I'm going to now make smaller, to be a Laila at night, and also the stars. So God had made a system, sun by day, but the moon has the stars at night, because it was downgraded and became smaller. Verse 17, a few more verses. And God placed them in this expanse of heavens that we learned about yesterday. To shine upon the earth. And to rule by day. uvalayla, and by night. So they're the rule. These are these major energies that we know are in the world. Hashem made the sun and the moon by day and night. And because God already created light and dark, but now the light will come from these two luminaries, and therefore they're going to separate between day and night. That's how you're going to know what's day and what's night. And God saw it was good. And that was night. It was evening. It was morning, and that is the end of the fourth day. We're going to also learn today the fifth day quickly. And God said, "What am I going to create on the fifth day?" So we had on Tuesday we had God dividing the waters and separating the oceans and then creating plants, vegetation. What happens on the fourth day? God makes the whole system of light and so on between the sun and the moon and the planets. And on the fifth day, swarms of swarming living creatures should come out of the water. Nefesh chaya. So I'm creating, God says, on the fifth day of creation, all kinds of fish and stuff, the aqua life, and nefesh, the oifef, and also all the birds, all the things of wings I'm going to create. Al-aretz, to fly over the land, that will fly in this expansive heavens that Hashem created, this open heavens. These fish in the water, I guess continuing the water that he separated, fish will be in the water, and birds will fly in that open heavens on top of the water. Things that have life in them. All of a sudden, God's creating these creatures that have some kind of life in them. The term, Bereishis is explaining to you, he created these sherets. He called the creepy crawling things. That's what they're called. So God makes different fish and these creepy crawling things, ants, beetles, worms, flies, insects. All of that was created, all winged creatures, and so on, all that stuff, and all fish were all created on the fifth day of creation. Interesting thing, which we don't have today. By Yivra Elikim, God also created, and he points this out, the two great sea monsters. Again, Shuki's point, God created everything in two great sea monsters. That's called Nefesh Achaya, and all kind of living things, Harimeshes, that creep and crawl, that will crawl in the water, liminayim, to their kinds. That's called oif, knaf, and all winged things, liminayim, to their kinds. You're going to see, we already learned that they were created. What is he adding here? Rashi is going to tell us in a minute. I believe he's going to tell you that they will continue to procreate, like he's going to say in the next verse. And God saw, what I made on Thursday is good. On the fifth day of creation, I'm making, one second. Riva, I'm in the middle of a class. Is everything okay? Yeah, I know. I told him to speak to Mitchell Beja in the sukkah. Please tell him. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Riva Shmaya Galprin also ordered. Okay. So Hashem made these two great sea things. So Rashi says something fascinating here. If you read the Rashi, I'll share with you. They made these massive fish. Huge, things we don't know. I guess bigger than the blue whale or whatever the biggest fish are. And in the deeper parts of Torah, it says that this was a fish called the Levyasan, the Levyasan fish. Riva? The Levyasan fish, and a mate for it, a male and a female. And God killed the female. And he salted the male fish. Again, this is a deeper esoteric part of Torah, and kept it for the world, Lavi, for the world to come. Why would God kill one of them? Because if they would have babies, these such big, massive fish, the world wouldn't be able to exist because they're too big to hold the world. So they would just take up everything, all the space in the world, and they wouldn't be able to exist. And therefore, God killed one of them. Why would God kill one? Why doesn't he just make one? So I was thinking about Shuki's point yesterday. Hashem made everything in pairs, which is fascinating. Verse 22, and God blessed them, and he says to them, always find this fascinating, especially when God tells us to Noach, as we've been learning in our Tuesday night class, be fruitful and multiply. He tells the animals, and God tells all of creation, I want you to have kids. That's how the world's going to continue to exist. Fill the water, and the birds, be a lot of birds. They should have a lot of chickens and birds, whatever, all things that are created should have become a lot. Yirav should be full, fowl should multiply in the earth. Rashi says, why do they get the special blessing? Because people hunt them and they catch them. And they take a lot of them. You ever see how they come with nets into the ocean and how much fish they catch? I believe this is also part of the reason why we go to Tashlif, because fish multiply tremendously. Why do fish multiply tremendously? It comes from the Chumash we're learning today, that they're going to be hunted and caught, and therefore Hashem gave them a special blessing that they should multiply tremendously so that they should be able to sustain all the people that are going to catch them and be able to still exist. Now, why is it, Rashi brings up a question already, that we see that he's not going to bless the animals. He doesn't give the same blessing here to the animals. And he says because the snake is included in those kind of beasts that are going to be created. And Hashem's going to curse the snake because of the sin with Adam and Eve that's going to take place. Therefore, he didn't bless them because he doesn't want the snake to be included in the blessing. Some interesting, esoteric, deeper ideas that we're discussing here today. So he tells them, Perudavu, be fruitful and multiply. Have many kids like you. So it's a double wording. It's fruitful and multiply. Why is that double wording necessary? Because fruitful means you should have one like you, recreate yourself. But multiply means one person, or here we're talking about fish, could have 1,000 fish. They could have thousands of fish could come from one fish. So not should it just be fruitful, it should also multiply a tremendous amount of fish and fill up all the world, all the oceans and all the sky should be filled of these fish and these birds. Verse 23, we're going to finish with this verse. It was evening, it was morning, Yom Chamishi, it was the 5th day of creation. And that is the end of today's Chumash that we're studying. Any questions or comments?
Rabbi.
Yes.
Why would God create the sea monster only to kill one and salt the other?
So, well, I think I addressed that a little bit as we were going through it quickly. It seems like everything had to be made in pairs. Everything was made in pairs. It's an interesting idea to discuss and to think about.
I know it was made in pairs, but why make them at all if he knew they were too big for this world?
Right. No, it's a good question. So he needed one of them. He tells you that one of them will be used. It's a very famous thing. There's something called the Levyasan. Maybe in English it's Leviathan or Levyasan. Is that when Mashiach comes, we're going to eat from, there's going to be a massive fish, and it says here that Hashem salted it for the world to come, pickled it, whatever, salted it, and it's going to be what we're going to eat when Mashiach comes. So it's very significant. I think it even says a sukkah will be made out of its skin. So I don't know. There seems like there's some much deeper stuff here involved with this fish that has significance and that will impact the world that we don't know yet today, but will be very important to what will happen when Mashiach comes. So I guess whatever Hashem made, this is an interesting thought as I'm talking to you, I'm just thinking about this, is that God's not going to recreate the world again when Mashiach comes. So Hashem already put everything into creation, what he'll need forever. For 5,000 years from now, I'm going to create it now too, right? So Hashem put everything into creation and created the massive fish that will be needed for when Mashiach comes. So there's going to be a big meal. All the Jews are going to eat together. How are you going to feed 14 million people, 20 million people, or so on? So it seems like there was a special fish created, and that's where we're going to be getting our food from. I don't know. We haven't seen it yet, I guess. We're going to still see what it will be needed. Maybe you know how the world's worried about food. Where are we going to get food from as people grow? Maybe this is part of the food that will be necessary. I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure why it had to be created, but we haven't found that yet. We will find out. These are part of the things that will come about when Mashiach comes. Good answer, somewhat? That's how I would see it. Any other questions or comments quickly? I have a hard break at 12:30. No? We good? Let me just leave you with Tanya. Let me share with you, Tanya. I'm not going to read it inside, but I'll give you an overview, a 3-minute overview on today's Tanya. So, Tanya is very powerful. There's a very, very powerful message in today's Tanya. I'm not going to share with you all the details, but he says that when we look at each other, there is two parts. There's the part that you see in the person. I see what you say. I can hear what you say, and I can see what you do. The problem is that we start making calculations sometimes in life about the other person, right? You start saying, what was his intention? What was his motive, right? We all do that to other people. Why did he do it? I had this the other day. I'll tell you where I have it's funny. So that actually for this class, I send out text to remind us for this class. So there'll be someone that hasn't joined for 2 months, right? 3 months, they've been on the list. In my personality, I don't like nudging people. So I'll take them off the list with, if they haven't been on 3-4 years, nothing personal. Just I don't want to nudge them. I don't want to keep on sending them a text. Every day they have to get a text from me about the class. So I'll take them off the class. And I took a guy off the class a couple days ago, and he says, Rabbi, I thought you got angry at me or something because you took off the class. I invited him to come to my sukkah and have coffee with me. And he said, Rabbi, I thought you were upset at me because you get a text message when I remove you from the remind list. The guy gets a text message, the Rabbi removed me. It actually happened even with the JBN networking group. Like, people just could sit on the list for years, and they keep on sending the reminder. So what I have to bother the guy? He took the guy off the list. And my wife called him up about Friendship Circle for his usual donation. He's like, I'm not giving you a donation to Friendship Circle. You took me off the networking group list, and he's upset. So here's the, these are true stories. And these happens, I'm sure in your life, these stories happen all the time to you. So there's the facts that you see, and then there's the calculations you start making, the intent of the person, right? You know, all these calculations you start making about the person. So Tanya, basically, the Alter Rebbe, if I understood correctly, says, stop making calculations. Stop thinking about the other person's motive and the reasons. Stop it. Just stop. Just accept them for what they're, you know what I mean? Just stop making calculations. Love the person. And he says another very interesting point. This is a very powerful point he says today in Tanya. We're all here in this world to help each other grow. We're all here in this world to help each other grow. For example, I'll tell you the things I experience. We experience this all the time. This is very real stuff. But I like something I was thinking about today, actually. Sometimes when you're in a tight spot, and there will be people who you feel are not helping you out. They're making it worse, right? You're in a tight spot, and then and specifically then your friend, your spouse, your child, your parent, whatever it is, will make it harder for you, not easier. And you'll say, come on, this is where I needed you to be there for me. This is where I needed help. Why are you, like, I need help here. Why do you also have to jump in over here and make it more difficult for me? So today's Tanya helps. It says that the person's not there. It's there to make you grow. We're each here to make each other grow in life. So how do you grow? By being challenged. I'm just adding this last piece, but it's true in general. So no, I'm sorry. The friend says, no, I'm not letting you get away with this. No, you have to wake up. I'm not giving you an easy pass today. Where it's hard for you, you still you still need to know that you have to control yourself or say whatever the thing is. That the reason is, don't get upset at the other person. They're there for your growth. So in life, we're all there to make each other grow. We're all necessary to make each other grow. What's the message? In life, we are one unit. That's the point. We're one unit. When the body starts coming apart, you're a dead person. Your heart can't work. The more united we are, which means you struggle with the other person because the different parts of the body are different than each other. And you're struggling with that other person in your life, or the other person in Shul, right? You're struggling with that other person. But you should know that's what makes the body. I could think like maybe, for example, even the head is pulling blood in its direction that the head needs. And the hand is pulling blood in its direction. So it's almost like the hand and the head are competing over the same blood. I don't know exactly how it works, but you could almost see it like a competition. But we all know if the head dies, the hand dies. And if the hand comes off, the head's going to suffer because he won't have a hand. So the problem is, at least you're one body, and the hand and the head know they're one body. So the hand's going to let the head get the blood it needs, and the head will let the hand get the blood it needs, because even though there could be some kind of competition, but they know that they need each other. They know that they're one body. But when you and another Jew look at each other and they say, no, I'm not letting you get the blood. I'm not letting you get the parnasa, the financial needs you need. I'm not letting you get the air, the oxygen you need to breathe. I'm not giving you what you need because I feel like it's a threat to me. You're so great. You're so silly. You're so stupid. You're cutting off your head. In order for you to exist, you have to have a head. You're not a silly person that you're being. You're not letting you're trying to pull the other guy's parnasa away. Why don't you realize he's your head? He's your head. You're one body. And even when the guy next to you gets you nervous, he's there for your growth, actually, because you're supposed to grow from it. You're not supposed to get away. The 2 points in Tanya, they're very powerful points. Number one, stop making calculations about what the other guy's thinking. Stop making calculations. Number one, stop it. Enough. Everyone's sitting, especially now with Corona. People have so much time to think, unfortunately. People that are not going near other people, they concoct. We all do this. I know I do this, and maybe some of you do too. Concoct things in your heads and stories. 99% is not true. And that's number one. Stop making calculations. Number two, you should know the person is you. The person is part of your body for your health. You have to have the other person. Even when it looks like silly, it's a silliness to look at like the guy's taking away your competition from you. Because when he lives better, you live better. When you live better, he lives better. This idea that we're taking from each other is a ridiculous thing. We should know that we should look at ourselves like one body. The more successful he is, the more successful you'll be. The more blood the head gets, the more blood the heart gets, the more blood the hand will get too, the more it'll be a healthier hand. The more you try to take away the blood from going to the head and the heart and the other parts of the body, you yourself are going to get sick. So that's the right way to look at it. Well, how does it connect to the essays, Tanya? To wrap it up, because we're talking about prayer. Prayer is what's the best way to pray. Yesterday, we read a very passionate letter from the Alter Rebbe about prayer, a tremendously passionate letter about going to shul and meaning what you're saying and being into davening, being passionate about it. And today, we're saying it's very important, it's required to have a healthy prayer, is to be united with the people around you, because you connect to your soul. This person becomes one. The soul is in the body. The healthier the body is, the more alive the body is, because the soul is now more in touch with the body, right? So the more the Jewish people are one, united, the healthier we're in touch with our soul, and that soul connects us to Hashem. So you want to go to shul with this unhealthy body, it's like eating food, but your body's ripped in pieces all over the place. How's the food going to digest and go into your system? But if you're a healthy body, then you could digest the food. If you want to get the life, you have to be healthy with the people around. You have to be a healthy body, and then you'll have a healthy life. That is the lesson from today's Tanya. Any questions or comments on what we learned? Yes, Mitchell.
So the lesson is that we should help each other and stop worrying about calculating who got what and all that. And just continue to help each other and not be jealous of the other one or that kind of thing. Is that right?
Because that's your growth. I want to tell you, I'm going to the networking group now. That's like some people walk into a networking group, anyone, and they say, how do I make sure to get the biggest part of the pie and not, who's going to take my business here away and how am I going to get it from him? And he argues, no, the more successful, and this is true, in fact, the more successful that person is, the more they can give to you, the more you're able to get. If that person, that's where we're arguing, even though it doesn't seem in our eyes like that, but if you believe that, if you believe that it comes from Hashem, you'll get more by being more in peace and more friendly with the person next to you. Instead of being competitive.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You got it. Have a great day, everyone.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You all.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.